Hello and welcome to the Why We Endure podcast, this show where I interview ordinary people that have done extraordinary things and ask them the only question that really matters, which is why. I'm your host, Chester Allen, and today I'm joined by Ed Stevens. Welcome, Ed. How are you?
I'm good, thanks, mate. I'm recovering from a really fun and exciting week, but on the whole, I'm pretty good, thanks, mate.
Awesome. Yeah, well, it's good to see that you are actually all together instead of in separate pieces, which is what I genuinely thought would happen after what you've been through, which we will come on to very shortly. So there's a little bit of a teaser for those that are listening. But mate, like, the way that we normally start this is just for those people who don't know you. Like, I know that lots of people listening to this will know you, but for those that don't, who are you? What's your sort of typical work week look like, and what makes you you?
Yeah, well, firstly, thank you for having me, Chester.
Me
I'm
too.
Ed. I am 32 years old. I work for Chelsea Football Club. Have a really interesting work week most weeks, to be fair. I think that's the beauty of working in football, is you turn up to work and most of the time you have no idea what you're about to be hit with on that day, which is really exciting. Um, I think I've learned to be very adaptable through my job. I've learned to kind of be able to think on my feet. I've learned to kind of, yeah, plan. I've learned to adapt. I've learned to react. And I think that's helped me through a lot of my hobbies as well. Kind of non-stop, 24/7, high-paced, high energy. I'd say that I take that into my personal life as well, which I'm sure we'll dig into some of the hobbies that I partake in as we chat.
Mate, absolutely. So, first off, how did the whole Chelsea thing come about? Because there'll be some people listening to this, right?
Yeah,
That'll be like, "Oh my God, Chelsea football!" And there are some die-hard Chelsea fans out there, like Charlie Smith, Benno Parsons as well. Shout out to Benno. So how did you get into that?
yeah. No real magic formula. I get asked this a lot. It's really funny working for quite a high profile football team. Is whenever you tell anyone what they do, everyone's ears perk up really quickly. And ask me how I got into it. I used to work for Renault, car manufacturer. Um, Worked in marketing and kind of other corporate roles, but always for my entire life I've had a huge passion for football. Um, Charlie Smith, who I'm sure we'll mention a few times over the next hour or so, and I had an incredible rivalry growing up of him being a huge Chelsea fan, me being a big Liverpool fan, which is ironic how things have turned out 32 years later. Um, Ever since I can remember, I've just been a huge football fan. So it's the type of thing where, like, you see jobs online and you apply for them, never ever thinking that you would have a chance of getting them, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden you get an email, you get an interview, you get a second interview, you get offered a job. And I was in a position at Renault where, again, I loved my time at Renault, I really enjoyed working for them, but I have no interest in cars whatsoever. So as good as the job was, I really wanted to do something I was passionate about, and they actually had offered me a job in Paris, which I was very excited about doing because I thought, oh, great, what an opportunity to go in and have a different type of life experience. And then
As
I
in
got
Chelsea did, or Renault
no,
did,
as in
sorry.
Renault did.
Okay.
Okay, well, at least if I was going to work in the automotive sector, I've got the life experience to go with it of living in Paris, do something different, challenge myself. I got offered this job at Chelsea, going through an interview process at the same time, and I had this manic 24 hours where I remember ringing my mum and being like, right, mum, I need you to just be my mum and tell me what to do here. Like, do I kind of pack up my life and move to Paris, or do I take this job at Chelsea? And my mum kind of took about 5 seconds of thinking about it and went, come on, don't be stupid. Like, all you've wanted to do your whole life is, well, play football. Unfortunately, it wasn't quite good enough, but at least work in football. You can go and work abroad whenever you want to in your life. You're not sure how many times this training stops. So I said, as always, you're right, mum. I ended up going and working for Chelsea. I've been there. It's been my fifth season. I did 2.5 years working on the men's side of the club. And then I've spent the last 2.5 years kind of working on the women's side of the club, which has been
Wow.
really great, really interesting, um, so enjoyable. As kind of that side of the club grows more and more as that kind of women's football grows more and more, it's an incredibly exciting kind of area to be involved in. And yeah, I've grown a real passion for it. So yeah, very fortunate to kind of love what I do.
Yeah, absolute. I love that. And look, a couple of things just on that. Mum's always right. Just they are annoyingly, they are, and they always offer sound advice. So it's good to hear that your mum's doing the same. But and then just Chelsea. So with the men's side, what was it exactly that you're doing? And now with the women's side, what is it as well? Because women's football is popping off, and it has been just growing. It's been on this sort of exponential curve for the last 4, 5, maybe even 6 years now.
It really has. So when I originally joined Chelsea, I was working in paid media, so all those kind of ads that you get served across all of your social platforms, etc. I was kind of working across that, so kind of trying to push all of the commercial products that Chelsea have to offer to kind of grow their commercial revenues. So whether that's stadium tours, whether that's hospitality tickets, women's tickets at the time, kind of sat within that as well, other various bits and bobs. Loved it. So interesting. Again, just working in a football environment every single day was fascinating. Got to do some cool things, meet some cool people. And yeah, I think kind of within the portfolio of stuff that I kind of worked across, I was always naturally drawn to kind of the women's side of things. I think it's very rare you get an opportunity to work at such an elite global sports, I'll call it franchise. That's not the American ownership influence on me. Kind of at that level, but still have such potential for growth as well. I think you work at kind of, particularly on the men's side at Chelsea, or I'm sure any other kind of top level club, you're always looking for kind of the 1, 2, 5% increases to be successful and to kind of grow. Whereas with women's football, as you just said, you've got a real opportunity to take it from kind of here to like wherever you want to really. And I think the other thing is working on the women's side, you genuinely feel like you can have a real impact personally, like the work that you're doing genuinely matters and you can see the impact of it on the growth, on the people around you, on kind of a fan base that, as you've said, is growing more and more every year. And I think that's just really rewarding and kind of, I remember we sold out Stamford Bridge for the first time as a women's team about 2.5 years ago, and just kind of that feeling of knowing that that was the first time in history that we've done that, and I kind of played quite a big part in that. It's something that I kind of look back on very fondly, and I think it's something you can attach yourself to be like, yeah, I had a real impact on that happening, and it's something that kind of the club will always have attached to it. So yeah, I've absolutely loved working on the women's side. The people are great, the players are amazing. They're also really, really good, which helps. They've been very, very successful over the last few years, which has been really fun to be a part of. And yeah, it's just kind of a really rewarding thing to do every single day.
Mate, awesome. I love that, and whoever's listening will agree with me, is that the passion coming through in your voice is like it's there clearly, and also congrats for selling out Stamford 2.5 years ago as well. So we were out of COVID 6, so that's still growing and getting people out, getting people moving. So that's a really big moment for you. So yeah, awesome, man. I really love that. And so with the sort of high drive and with the environment that you're in, you're consistently around professionals. And you're consistently around people that probably inspire you, and you're always thinking, okay, well, maybe you're not, but are you always thinking, okay, well, what am I doing? What am I doing compared to these professionals? How am I challenging yourself? And so how does that transpire into your life, as a cheeky little segue?
No, completely. And you're completely right. It's one of the things that I think I've always loved about sport. I think it's one of the things that now I live it, or I'm in that environment every single day. It's so hard not to get swept up by. I think it's something that I naturally would do anyway, but you're right, when you're surrounded by these professional athletes in the environment that kind of enables them to maximise their performance. And even from kind of speaking to the staff, I'm fortunate where like I'm kind of have relationships now with a couple of the players that I speak to quite often, and kind of even just learning from them, seeing how they drive themselves, seeing how kind of they go about their day-to-day lives, how they apply themselves in training sessions or in games, and kind of, again, just even the passion that they have to be the best versions of themselves. It's very infectious, and it's very hard not to kind of, as you've said, carry that over into the things that you kind of are pursuing yourself. So yeah, I definitely think it's supported that, and it's an environment that I think now, as I think about my career professionally moving forward, is something I don't really want to take myself out of. I think I'd really struggle to go back to like a slower paced, less intense, less kind of energetic, almost like a more predictable environment. Kind of, I really enjoy the challenge of the unpredictability of football and sport, and kind of the
Yeah.
emotions that come with it.
I love that, and there's a couple of things that I might tie that back to a little bit later. But there seems like there's a bit of a fire, within you to run, and I don't mean that in the actual literal sense. I mean that to run as in to run with everything, take it, it's kind of bull by the horns and into submission sort of thing, So
Yeah.
I love that, right? And I think that's really, really important. And obviously within your industry, you need that as well. There is one question which I think most people will be like, well, hang on, Chester, you've got to ask this. Are you still a Liverpool fan?
So yes, sorry, I need to clarify, wholeheartedly yes. I now feel like I've got a balance of, I can answer this question probably in a different way to I was answering it 4 years ago. I think 4 years ago it just would have been a flat out yes. I think now, having worked across the women's team for 2.5 years, I think I can say like, oh, I'm a big fan of the Liverpool men's team, and I'm a fan of the Chelsea women's team, because A, it helps myself professionally, but B, I think just being around it every day, like I said, having kind of relationships with the staff and players, it's very hard not to want them to be successful. And it kind of gives me that kind of point of separation between the kind of two teams that I follow. But it's very funny. I remember telling my granddad is probably an even more diehard Liverpool fan than I am. And I remember telling him for the first time that I'd got the job at Chelsea, and he kind of was like, "What?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah." And he was like, "I don't understand." And he was like, "But we support Liverpool." I was like, "No, no, I still support Liverpool, but I'm going to go work for Chelsea." And he was like, "No, don't get it." But I was like, "Fair enough." No, I completely get it. I'd say the biggest challenge I've had is really coincidentally, well, not coincidentally, because Liverpool are the best football team on the planet. But I remember my first 2 years at Chelsea, Liverpool played Chelsea 3 times in cup finals at Wembley. I think it was two Carabao Cups and an FA Cup final. And obviously, perks of the job, I managed to get tickets. Not perks of the job, I'd sit in the Chelsea end. So I remember I took my dad to a couple of them. And I remember,
Also a Liverpool fan?
also a Liverpool fan, and we
Yeah.
sat
Okay.
behind.
Cool. Yeah.
I think it was one of the Carabao Cup finals. We sat behind the goal that the penalty shootout was in, and kind of I remember Kostas Tsimikas stepping up to take what would have been the winning penalty for Liverpool, and I remember just like turning to my dad and kind of mumbling to him like, "Don't you dare react if this goes in," and like almost having to like pin him down. And obviously the penalty goes in, and Liverpool win the League Cup, and we're kind of sat there like. And then kind of the Chelsea end empties, everyone heads to the concourse, and you can just see these like pockets of what are obviously like hidden Liverpool fans in the Chelsea end, just like waiting to watch the trophy being lifted. It was very funny.
Oh, I love that. I love that so much. And so, well, that's a core memory right there, obviously. But
Yeah, 100%.
I'm not sure if I'd be able to. I'm an animated person, mate. So there's no way I'd be able to have kept that in. Like the whole game, I would have given it away in the first 10 minutes. So,
Yeah.
kudos to you. But, mate, so this is all. This is all your work sphere, right? This is all what drives you. This is all what you're about. But who is Ed really, right? So like let's just kick into it a little bit. So you're on this podcast for a reason, right? I interview ordinary people that do extraordinary things, and by golly, you've done something pretty extraordinary. So let me give it over to you, because I want to hear a little bit about where this idea came from. What was the moment that you were like, yeah, I'm gonna do what you did last week?
Yeah, so it comes off, the moment itself probably comes off of probably an unfortunate moment. So I'd signed up to do the Huntsman run. I've been meaning to do it since the year that you and the guys started doing it. Unfortunately, I was away with Chelsea the first year. Last year, I had my own kind of race that I was training for, so I didn't want to disrupt that. So this year was like the first opportunity. I was like, great, I've got an opportunity to do it now. And the lovely thing about when I originally signed up is I was going to run it alongside my sister, which I'm sure we'll get onto kind of the story of the run and everything that happened. But it was going to be a really lovely moment. My sister and I both had like really meaningful purposes for doing it. And yeah, it was going to be a really special moment. She then ran her first marathon, the London Marathon, in April. And unfortunately, yeah, hurt her knee and had to pull out. So I kind of had this moment where I was like, I really want to build more meaning into kind of what this run meant, because, and I'm sure we'll get onto it, but like I'm quite an experienced runner, and I wanted to kind of do something that people paid attention to and gave kind of the cause and the reason why we were running the attention it deserved. And I felt like kind of, and I don't mean this to come across as kind of like an arrogant statement, but like I felt like running a double marathon, people would have been like, that is incredible, but also like, we know how experienced you are as a runner. It doesn't feel like it's something that would grab the attention like doing something a bit more. So I sat down with Charlie and I just said like, look, as I said, I'm really keen to give this weekend and kind of the purpose why we're running the attention it deserves, make sure it's kind of got a really strong story to drive that purpose and drive the attention of the trust and everything like that. What do you reckon we could do? And we were like, oh, well, why don't we run even more? And we were like, okay, yeah, I think we could do that. I mean, Charlie, I'm sure a lot of people listening to this know Charlie incredibly well. He's as mad as I am when it comes to this, and he's probably the only person who's delusionally as confident as I am as well. But we were discussing then, what does that look like? And we said, well, why don't we try and do one every day that week? Or why don't we try and extend it to the whole week? So rather than it be a weekend of running a back-to-back marathon, why don't we think about doing the whole week? And then we came up with the branding of like the Hunch Monday to Sunday. We thought that was really funny. Well, I did anyway.
Nice.
And that kind of settled the debate. So yeah, we decided to commit to it, and it was born from there, really.
I love it. I love it so much. So I mean, just super quickly for those that maybe missed it, the Run Huntsman Run is a marathon on Saturday and then again on Sunday, and it's been growing for the last 3 years. The first year we had 23 runners. Last year we had about 58, and this year we had 86, I believe. So it's been growing, and so Ed, like, and I appreciate that you are a runner and you're known as a runner. So maybe just to give us a bit of flavour, a bit of a colour to that background, give me a brief snapshot of your CV, your exercise running CV until now, if you can.
Yeah, 100%. So I have, I'm sure people would have guessed it by now, have been besotted by sport since kind of as long as I can remember. I played every sport I could get my hands on growing up. So I've always just had a love for it. Growing up, although it was always kind of team sports, it was always your classic kind of football, rugby, cricket, things like that. And then me and my sister and my dad all signed up to do a half marathon in what would have been 2014. And that was kind of the first proper, I guess, run that I actually had trained for and kind of tried to achieve, I guess, as something that I really pushed myself to do. And I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed the process. I was at uni at the time, so I don't feel like I kind of had the most structured approach to it. It was kind
I was going to say, you must have been like 19, right?
Yeah, so I was about 19.
No, thank you.
And then in my third year of uni, I did my internship at Renault before going back as a graduate. And at the time, they were the vehicle provider for the London Marathon. So they got given kind of corporate places, one of which I managed to kind of get. I'd always wanted to do the London Marathon. So I was like, oh my God, what an opportunity to do so. And
yeah.
So 2015, I kind of then went through my first ever training process for the London Marathon, went through kind of the race itself, and I just absolutely fell in love with the whole environment of it. I just loved the concept of having this goal to achieve, kind of figuring out your way to get yourself from a starting point to the point of achievement, and then just going through the day of the London Marathon. And for everyone that's been a part of the day of the London Marathon, you'll understand kind of the atmosphere that goes with it, just I think it absolutely brings out the best of London as a city. You'll never kind of
100%.
see the city so united in support and kind of. And I just remember getting to that finish line. I think when you get to the finish line of your first marathon, you can go one of two ways. You can go the way of like, that was horrendous, I'm never putting on my running shoes ever again. Or you can go the way which I went, which was like, oh God, like when can I do another one? Um, so yeah, so I just absolutely fell in love with it. I then I went back to Renault after I finished my degree. Again, managed to get another place to do London again, and then
So you
it's kind of just grown from there. So since then, I've gone on to do kind of 9 marathon races. It's kind of been something that I've really grown to love. It's become my number one passion. I've very much kind of seen a evolution in kind of my performance and kind of the aims that I've got with it. I've kind of gone from just absolutely loving the experience to being like, oh, actually, I really want to push myself to see kind of how well I can do in these, and have different goals across kind of the 9 races that I've had. Um, and yeah, I think it's taught me a lot about myself. I think it kind of has really given me values that I take through my everyday life, which I'm sure we'll come on to. And yeah, I just fell in love with the process, and I think it's just something that I've carried with me over the last kind of, what are we, 11 years later. And then alongside that, in that time, back end of COVID, when I think we were all a bit bored and had a bit more time on our hands, I did give a go at a half Ironman as well. My sister and Ben Smith, to be fair, both tried to teach me how to swim properly, unsuccessfully. um, I got overexcited and bought a bike that's now sat in my parents' garage for the last 5 years, untouched since I did it. And yeah,
Poor
I,
bike.
I loved it. Again, I love challenging myself, doing something new, but I just didn't kind of, it didn't fuel me the same way that kind of running marathons and kind of pushing myself in that way did. So that's what I've continued to carry with me now.
So interesting. So it all started from the half marathon, which was where? Sorry.
That was locally here in Weybridge, around Brooklands.
Okay.
Yeah, I did that in
Nice.
what would have been, 2013 or 2014 with my sister and my dad, and it's kind of literally just spiraled since then, really, to the point where I think people are sick of me.
Sick of it. Yeah. Is that all you say? All you want to talk
think
about is
people
running.
are really doing it.
No, I love it, and look, I think running's especially has really popped off in the last, I'd say, 4 years. But it's always been growing, right? It's such a simple thing. All you really need is a pair of trainers. Obviously, you can't be you can't be indecent in public, so you need some shorts as well and a t-shirt to go with it. But well, in this weather, no t-shirt. But yeah, exactly. Who doesn't own a t-shirt? So, but you're also extremely lucky, and I do agree with you that London really comes together around the London Marathon. I think the only other time I've seen London in such a ecstatic environment was when we made it to the finals in the World Cup. That was the only other time, genuinely, or when we done particularly well in another football tournament. That's literally it. I think 2018 was one of the best summers I've ever had. But yeah, I completely agree with you. Like, it's insane. And then to go on and do 9 more marathons as well. So and your transition, which is what I kind of want to get into a little bit here as well, is you went from running them purely out of enjoyment, and now you're going, okay, are you looking at like splits? Are you thinking, okay, I need to carve out some, I could get some more time here, I need to be fueling a little bit better? Are you a bit more analytical with it? And do you still enjoy it the same amount, or do you think that's sort of been lost a bit?
No, I think even more so. I think as I started to, I think my enjoyment comes from setting and achieving goals, and I think what those goals have been over my 11 years of running marathons has changed, but I think my enjoyment of the process of achieving them has stayed the same.
That's great.
The goal of marathon number 1 was get to the finish line. The goal of marathon 2 was like, oh, I wonder if I could do it a little bit quicker. And then kind of it's gone, oh, okay, I got pretty close to this time. Maybe in the next one I'll I'll go for that time. And now, kind of 9 marathons later, I'm looking at kind of qualifying times for the majors. So it's kind of really,
Really?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
what time is that? Talk to me more about
Uh,
that.
so I've got to a point now where I think the last marathon I did was on my birthday last year. Actually, honestly, people like this was on brand birthday for you ever. But I ran the Lisbon Marathon last October. I ran at 2:53. So
Pardon?
I ran I ran a 2:53 in Lisbon last year. Um,
Go
which
on,
yeah,
son.
I'm incredibly proud of. And but as I say to people, it's taken me 11 years to get there. This isn't a I've put on my running shoes and gone out and done this. This is 11 years of kind of building to it. And yeah, so now I've kind of got my sights on kind of going sub 250, pushing 245. I think. Do you know what the most? I think the reason for it is because for every year for the last 10 years I've applied for the ballot for New York, Berlin, Chicago, never get in. And as
Really?
ridiculous as it sounds, I'm almost like, oh, I wonder if I could. I wonder if it's easier just to try and push myself to to qualify for them. It's a kind of easier way to secure a ticket mentally. So
I
yeah, so
love
that
that.
again,
I
it's
can't
kind of
get in through the lottery, but I will break my way in through the majors.
yeah, basically, as ridiculous as it sounds, but I think again, it kind of just follows that same process of, like I said, my goals when I started 11 years ago were nowhere near that, but kind of it's just gradually the more work you put in, the experience you get of learning what works, what doesn't work, as you kind of alluded to, the more I've gone, okay, well, what if I actually think about how am I fueling this? What if I actually think about how many carbs am I taking per hour? Like again, I'd never
Carbon
really thought
shoes.
like that
Yeah.
until the last couple of marathons. And funny enough, sometimes the scientists know what they're talking about, and actually it makes a difference. And kind of, it's just these things that you learn along the way that do impact your performance. And kind of, as with anything, the more you do it, the more you learn, the more experience you get, the more your performance improves. And yeah, I've managed to get to a point where I'm really proud of kind of yeah the times that I've run, and kind of yeah I've still kind of got that hunger and drive to see where I can get to.
I love it. I absolutely love it, and Ed, you should be as well. Like that's quite the CV that we've got there. And the only other thing that I wanted to get into is just the 70.3. Was that in Weymouth by any chance,
No,
or
it was in Barcelona, or a town just down the coast from Barcelona.
Calais?
Calais, that's the one. Um,
I know it well.
so
I know it
yeah,
very well.
I'm traumatized from the swim, I must say. It was a pretty rough day weather-wise, so pretty choppy waters, and I've not.
What year did you do it in?
It would have been 20. I want to say 21. I want to say October 2021 or 22.
I
Can't
think
remember.
we might have done it at the same time.
I've got the lovely yellow bag that came with it. If yours is bright yellow as well.
I had the red bag
Okay, we might have been a year out. I'm pretty sure. I'm sure I did.
because I did the well no I think it was the yellow bag, but I did the other one.
The full one.
Um, mm, in
Yeah,
Calais, and it a really windy day?
yeah, it was. It
And
was.
did they were really worried about the swim because
They were.
yes, I think we were there at the same
Oh,
time.
funny. How funny. Well, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I must say
Small
you're
world.
a much more impressive triathlete than I am, Jester. So I'm good.
I'm not
Once I
sure
get through
about
the
that.
swim and the bike, I'm all right. But getting through the first two legs are a bit of a struggle.
Yeah. Well, hey, look, a 70.3 is a 70.3, and there's not that many people that will be able to sort of, sit there and say that they've done 9 marathons, then competing for a competing for a spot in Chicago, Boston, or was it New York as well?
Yeah, New York.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive. Sorry, if anyone's wondering why we're laughing, I just saw a sneaky little hand just turn the oven on behind me in Ben Hudson's kitchen. But yeah, no, so mate, like what I wanted to come on to as well with all of these accolades, and maybe like taking it into a bit of a serious note, if you don't mind, is
Of course.
you have there's an obvious drive with work, with pushing yourself outside of work as well. So what I always ask people when we get into the poddy, and my favorite segment as well, is really understanding their why. So like what I mean by that is what is the motivation? What is that fire within inside you, and where does that come from? So I'm going to ask you, what is your why?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've thought about this a lot actually, and I think every every goal that I've set myself, I think has its own nuances, but I think there's this underlying drive within me to be the best version of myself. I think the values that I give my everyday life and the values of kind of what I set out to achieve in running are really, really aligned. And I think that's really helped me in maintaining my motivation to kind of keep doing all these stupid things and kind of ending up with probably metal knees by the time I'm 45. But I think it just comes from a place of, like I said, always kind of wanting to be in that environment of high performance, of kind of really admiring sports people or high performing people growing up. And I think as well, kind of, I'm very fortunate where I feel like I've been given a lot of opportunities in life, and I think it would be wrong of me to not to want to make the most of them and do it justice. I think that, yeah, being the best version of myself is really important. I think it's values that my parents have taught me as well. I think I always joke with them that I think there's no doubt that they are my biological parents, because I'm a really good blend of both of them. I think I've got I think I've got my mum's sense of like empathy, where kind of I put a lot of focus on kind of my emotional intelligence and kind of my awareness and kind of how I view myself and kind of those around me, and kind of what can I do to make the best of any situation, whether it's for myself or for the things that I'm trying to support. And then, yeah, my dad has kind of driven into me the values of, yeah, just kind of making sure you make the most of your life, and kind of making sure that kind of if you've got something that you feel like you can offer, to kind of do it to the best of your ability and make sure you don't go into things half-heartedly. And I think that kind of just gives me this perfect blend that matches quite closely with running and high performance sport, where kind of you have that kind of awareness and that kind of, yeah, emotional drive for yourself or for the thing that you're trying to achieve, but then also making sure that you apply yourself every day and you give it the focused and kind of attention it deserves to make sure that you try and achieve what you set out to achieve. So yeah, I think it's just always been something that's been ingrained into me through all the role models that I've had, whether that's kind of in the personal life, in the home that I'm in, or kind of the sports people that I've admired growing up. And it's just something that I've always wanted to emulate, and then something that kind of I've put the work into, I guess, to try and make sure becomes everyday habits. I think that's, even if people are kind of trying to install these values into you, it still takes you to kind of make sure you practice those and kind of make sure that you apply those in your everyday life, to make sure that it becomes part of who you are, really.
Mate, that is beautiful, and thank you for sharing that as well, because that is awesome, and kudos to your parents first off. You know, they have been successful, whether you admit it or not. But I think that's really important, and I think that's a very mature realization as well to have, because some people, you know, will not blame it. Some people will draw it from, you know, another thing where it could have been, you know, when they were younger, they got pushed over by a bully or something like that. But you have realized that actually, no, I am the man who I am because of the values that my parents have instilled in me, but also understanding that you're learning from them, and that they are parents, but they're also teachers. Instead of just putting up a barrier and going, no, I don't want to listen to you. You know,
Yeah.
you sound like a very coachable kid.
Yeah, it's not just my parents. I think I'm very fortunate that I've had some. I'm incredibly fortunate that I've always had some incredible people around me, whether it's friends, whether it's kind of other kind of father, mother figures that I've grown up with. I'm very fortunate that I've been able to kind of learn and grow up alongside a lot of those things. So I think I just try and absorb everything I can from the people that I admire, and take that forward with me, really.
That's also down to you as a person, mate. Yeah, you know, so seriously, because you've got, right, so you said to me, you know, just then, you've got other father and mother figures that you draw from. You're around amazing people, but they wouldn't gravitate towards you unless you were giving them the same energy back. So, you know, you've just found your people and gone, okay, this is where I'm at, and this is where I'm going to draw my inspiration from, which, mate, a lot of people don't have. So you've created your own luck, and I think that's really, really commendable. So that's awesome, and I love that. And where I want to go now with this is, okay, you've got the foundations, you've got a super strong base, right? You've just told me about where you draw all your inspiration from, where you get your morals from, where you get your drive from. But not every day is perfect, especially training for marathons.
Yeah.
There's always days that rear their ugly head and you're like, I feel crap today and I do not want to put on my trainers. Sometimes it takes me half an hour to put on my trainers, and I'm like, well, I'm going to get out there eventually because the clock's running and I need to go. So where do you go in those dark moments, and what do you look for to pull you out of a hole or a pain cave?
I think that's why, when I alluded to earlier, kind of each goal that I set probably has its own nuances. I think that's where those nuances kind of can really play their big role in kind of pushing you forward. I don't know if we'll get on to touching to last week in a bit more detail, or if you want me to do it now, but
mate, run with it, go with it.
Yeah, so I guess I'm not sure if I've really explained it properly, but yeah, last week, as I said, kind of when we were talking about the discussion Charlie and I had, so yeah, I ran a marathon every day last week: Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and yeah, I think going into it, I wasn't naive to the fact that it was going to be hard. I've done a lot of marathons, but funny enough, one at a time. So I knew it was going to be tough. I think I kind of was prepared for the physical suffering. I kind of understand my body. I've done the work. I've had that experience. I think the thing that I hadn't had experience of was the kind of mental and emotional suffering that I kind of was expecting last week. That's the bit that I kind of didn't know where I was going to be at any point. And yeah, there were times when kind of you've done 4 marathons, you wake up, your alarm goes off, and you've got to kind of think, right, we've got to get up and do this again. And I think that's where having a real clear reason as to why you're doing something, and kind of then it's how do you activate that reason, and kind of what tips and tricks can you have personally to activate your reason. I'm a very kind of visual, and I guess philosophical is a dramatic way of saying it, kind of that's what motivates me. I utilize quotes, and I utilize visual images a lot to kind of get me into a mindset. I've got various kind of things that I'll read or I'll look at, and kind of that will get me going. I also, and I think this is something that has really evolved within me in the last 2 or 3 years. I think previously I've spent a lot of time using all the kind of physical achievements that I've had over the last 10, 11 years as an excuse to kind of say to myself and say to others, look how strong I am. I'm this macho athlete that kind of, I don't need support. I can be strong for myself. I can be strong for other people. I don't lean on me. I don't need to lean on you. And it's taken me a long time to actually kind of evolve that to a point where now I'm at a point where I'm like, no, actually, if I wake up one morning and I need support in motivating myself, I need support in getting over a hump or a challenge that I'm facing, go and like I said, I've got incredible people around me, and I do lean on them more. I'm not kind of proud anymore I'm not too proud, shall I say, to go and look for that support and kind of lean on people, because you will find that the people around you will more times than not be more than happy to kind of find that way in getting you through that. So I've kind of emotionally developed, I guess, over the last 2 or 3 years in particular, to kind of learn that behavior and kind of be a lot more open about that with the people around me. And funny enough, it's helped me massively. So now I do have moments like last week when times get hard. I've got my own little kind of tips or tricks that I can try and do, but then sometimes actually if those don't work, I'm very fortunate where I can go out and lean on someone and say kind of actually kind of I'm feeling a bit rough today, and then kind of they can go on support from there.
So a couple of things from that. You're enriching your own experience by involving more people in and sort of leaning on them, right? And that's sort of the direct correlation from that is. But I also, can I put you on the spot a little bit here? Because I'm curious, because I'm very similar to you with motivation. I do really, really well with quotes and pieces that I've read and images as well, if I'm completely honest. What would be give me a couple quotes that you used last week during it, and you can go into your folder if you have one.
There's actually one that I think might spoil an answer to a question that's coming up at the end. So I won't lean
Oh,
on,
really?
yeah. So I won't kind of delve into that one. But I think the premise of
All right.
kind of stuff that I read is just kind of, I'm very much the type of guy that is very happy to kind of wear his heart on his sleeve and kind of give everything he's got and not worry too much about the consequences. I try to read kind of things about not being afraid and kind of like grabbing life by the horns and just being what's the worst that could happen. I
Yeah.
very much, I think one of my big values in life is I would hate to kind of get to a point when I'm older, and I think the worst feeling you could ever have is what if. So like I would rather kind of attempt something and it not work out than not try it at all. And if it doesn't work out, because yeah, I've had goals in my life that I've not achieved. I don't want it to sound like every goal I've ever set myself I've achieved. Like I've had runs, I've done marathons where I've gone out wanting to achieve a certain time. I've missed it by like 40 minutes, and but I would rather go for it than not go for it.
100%.
So I think it's just a lot of kind of stuff that brings across kind of like that sentiment is kind of the stuff that I try to kind of surround myself by and kind of engage with, that kind of gives me the motivation to be like, yeah, you know what, like go for it, and what's the worst that can happen? Like,
Oh yeah. No, I really love that, and look, and I'm sorry, I sort of I did miss that earlier a little bit with the 7 marathons in 7 days, mental. But then not just the fact that, you know, oh, you're going to wake up every day, do a marathon, eat, sleep, and then just get up and do it. You were working every day during those 5 days, weren't you? Yeah.
Monday to Wednesday I worked. Yeah.
Monday to Wednesday still. So
Yeah.
you worked three of those 7 days. So you're in the office. So you're telling me that on Monday you finished, and I'm pretty sure you started running around 4:30. Am I right?
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
right.
So you started running at 4:30. So you finished around what, 8:30, 9?
Yeah, about 8:30. Yeah.
8:30. Cool. So you've just done a marathon. No one's there at the finish line to applaud you, because look, you've done 7 marathons in 7 days, yeah, and your whole life you consider yourself a marathon runner. You've done 9. You've nearly done double in 7 days, mate. That is absolutely bonkers. So then on Monday after that marathon, which no one again was there to congratulate you, I'm sure you got some messages and whatnot. You then go to bed, you wake up and you go to work, and then all through that day you're working, and then you've got to do another marathon, and then you've got to do that again on Wednesday. How was that mentally?
I think it started off as a bit of naivety. It felt like novel. It felt like, oh, this is quite funny. Like I'm going to work. I think the novelty very quickly wore off, and I think the biggest thing for me was having Charlie alongside me Monday to Thursday. I think, like I said, kind of being able to lean on someone for support makes such a difference, and I'm very fortunate to have a mental friend like Charlie, who, if you turn around and say, "Hey, do you want to do this absolutely bonkers thing?" there's no hesitation. He's going to say yes, and I think kind of we got ourselves through those first 4 days together, which I'm really, really grateful.
It's awesome.
And yeah, again, having the people at work, again, I've got a lovely group at work that I surround myself with every day. Having them kind of really invested, really wanting you to do well makes a huge difference. Kind of, they're hugely invested in what you're doing, why you're doing it, kind of how can they help in any way, giving me the flexibility to say, oh yeah, by the way, guys, sorry, I can't join a 4:30 call because I'll go out and run a marathon for this purpose. They're like, yeah, of course, like what an amazing cause to be supporting. So yeah, I think having the support around you helps, and that's kind of, it's moments like that that really comes to life.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And so physically, let's talk a little bit physically, and then I'll move us on a little bit. But physically, how did the body react to 7 marathons in 7 days? Because I'm sure the first 2 days were quite painful. Did you recover and then start to enjoy it, or was it all just bad?
I think that was probably the biggest downside of working Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, was kind of like you get home at, like you said, 9:30, you got to eat, and then you're pretty much to bed. There's no real time to do proper the recovery that the marathon distance kind of deserves. And then you're doing that 3 days on the straight. And then kind of Thursday, when I wasn't working, Charlie and I went out a bit earlier. I actually had the time in the evening to kind of sit down for a couple of hours, like do some actual proper active recovery rather than just eating, bit of stretching, bit of foam rolling, go to bed. And then I woke up on Friday kind of feeling a lot better. So I think that was the biggest challenge. I'm actually really pleasantly surprised about how my body reacted to it physically. Um, it wasn't really until the Sunday that I really started to kind of hurt. I think there was a lot of discomfort through the week, but like manageable discomfort. Um, it wasn't till I woke up on Sunday that I really kind of was like, okay, I've got actual like pain in my legs now. And but again, that's where the beauty
Interesting.
of kind of finishing on this amazing event on Saturday and Sunday is kind of the best thing that could have ever happened, because I ran 35k with two of the amazing Huntsman community, Molly and Josh, who they won't admit it, and they'll say I'm being humble, but they really did drag me around on Sunday around that course, and I think without them I really would have struggled. So I think that's the beauty of, like I said, I keep saying like I'm fortunate enough to have the support around me, but also just the beauty of the kind of Huntsman community in general that made it so special.
Well, quick shout out to Molly and Josh, and also if you are listening to this and you do not follow the Huntsman Trust, please go and do that on Instagram. There's socials everywhere, and a lot of content that's come out. I just wanted to. That was very interesting what you said. So manageable pain, awesome. That is great, and to be expected, because there was a goal in mind, right? So it had to be manageable pain, because there's no way you weren't going to finish. But then on Sunday morning, that's when it all started to hurt. Do you think there's a little bit of, because it was more mental? Do you know what I mean? Because like it's the last day, so your body was like, oh, you're kind of done. You're not, because you've got a marathon. But also you're like, well, I'm on the last day, so let's call it.
Yeah, potentially. And I think I'd always in my mind positioned the Sunday as like a day of celebration. Like I think I'd gone into it thinking like, right, I really want to enjoy today. Today isn't about the kind of, like you said, physical challenge of running a marathon. I mean, it obviously is, but
Yeah.
it's more about kind of the
Still got to get there.
element of the event, and kind of you rely on that to get you round more than the physical kind of adrenaline. And I think you're right, maybe the physical adrenaline was running through me a bit more kind of Monday to Saturday, which enabled my body to kind of power itself through. But like you said, kind of mentally knowing that I was going to try and rely on something else a bit more and kind of go into a bit of a different mental state than the first 6 days on the Sunday. Probably my body maybe then relaxed and was like, great, I can kind of release all of this pent up pain that I've been holding back for 6 days. And yeah, my God, it did. I can tell you that.
You're just wishing it didn't, Come on, I don't need the last day to be the hardest, but
and that's
inevitably.
Like 3 days later, I've got ice packs strapped to both my ankles as we speak. So yeah.
Well, mate, I do wish you a speedy recovery. Are you any need for a physio, or do we think it's all soft tissue and muscular?
No, I think it's just swelling. I think
Okay.
It's just my body being like, right, please stop. And I've been like, actually, yeah, I'm going to stop. Don't worry. So yeah, Thankfully, the kind of physical pain and discomfort isn't too bad at all. It's just kind of a bit of swelling more than anything. So yeah, like I said, if you'd offered me that at the start of last Monday, I'd have bitten your hand off to feel like this on the Wednesday following.
Well, mate, again, massive congratulations, and we want you back as the Hunchman. We want you back volunteering next year, and I'm sure you will. And I've got a quick question before I get on to the closing tradition. It sounds quite final, what you did this year. 7 marathons in 7 days, that's pretty big. What's beyond the finish line for you?
I think there's two ways to look at it, for sure. I think there's, like you said, and I do want to continue to shout out the Huntsman Trust, just because I think it encapsulates everything that I've been talking about. Absolutely, we've both got our t-shirts on. I think it just absolutely encapsulates everything that I've kind of spoken about for the last 49 minutes in terms of providing people with just the most incredible purpose to drive themselves to achieve what they want to achieve, giving everyone a support network for the events itself, but obviously the purpose of what we're doing is providing an even bigger support network for people in their everyday lives, which is the incredible work that the Huntsman Trust does. And I think for me, beyond the finish line, this weekend has given me a real sense of gratitude of kind of running as a community. I think running can be a very individual sport. And a lot of the times, like I said, I've spent the last 11 years focusing on kind of like, what are my goals? What do I want to achieve from running? Kind of what can I get out of running? And I think kind of the last week has really opened my eyes to actually kind of like, what can I give back to running, I guess, or not particularly maybe running in general, but kind of like the communities that kind of can be built around running, which obviously the Huntsman Trust is an incredible example of. So I'm definitely thinking, I'm incredibly motivated to think about different ways that I can kind of support people in achieving the things that they want to achieve, like I've had the kind of fortunate or good fortune of being able to do myself. So that's number one. If I do then go back to kind of what I want to achieve, I think like I said, I'm really proud of last week, like really, really proud. I think everyone that I've ever told I've been doing this has looked at me as if they've seen a ghost when I've told them what I was doing. But I think I was really confident going into it because I like I said, I've worked really, really hard in my life to kind of get to a place where I feel like I can have that self-drive to try and achieve the things I want to achieve. And crossing that finish line on Sunday kind of reaffirmed that to me, that I can set myself these really ambitious goals and go on to achieve them. So that's something that I'm always going to continue to do. Like I said, those major marathons and those qualifying times are kind of the next one in the distance, and we'll see how we get on. But yeah, I think it's just given me the confidence to continue to kind of push myself to achieve like things I want to achieve and things that I feel like can make a real impact either to myself or to kind of the people around me.
Mate, I love it. Don't stop, won't stop, can't stop, you know. And look, I forgot to say earlier, but you know when you said you called Charlie because you knew he's lost so many marbles that he'll just say yes to anything. I literally had that today, so I'll chat to you offline about what it is because you might be the last piece of the jigsaw. But look, I appreciate that, and you might not want to, but
Probably
you know we'll see.
I was strapped to my ankles.
It's all right. You've got about 8 months to recover. Okay, so hey, look, mate, I really appreciate all of that as well, and I think that giving back to running's ready to receive that from you as well, you know. And I think the Huntsman's always going to be there. You're well connected within that as well, and always push yourself. You know, I think it's a passion of yours, and it's something you should always continue in as well. So thank you for sharing that as well. As you know, You might actually be one of the very few guests that I've prepped before the podcast with so much time for this question. But I do have a closing tradition on the podcast, which is for the 7 marathons that you did in 7 days and the double marathon, the Huntsman double, the Huntsman Run. If there was an anthem, a song that sort of encapsulates the whole 7 days and the Huntsman Run event, what would that song be and why?
Yeah, so this is where I was going to kind of say, I was going to answer this question a little bit differently. Not in terms of kind of giving you a different answer, but just it's not a song as such, but there's a speech that Theodore Roosevelt gave in 1910 in France, and that it hangs on my bedroom wall because I think it absolutely encapsulates everything I've spoken about in the last kind of 55 minutes. And when I talk about kind of being a very visual person and someone who kind of like really likes absorbing that kind of philosophical element, I think this kind of does it more than anything. So yeah, there's
hit me with it.
A speech that he gave called it's commonly known these days as Man in the Arena. I don't know if you've heard of it or not, but there's a couple of sentences towards the end which basically goes that he at his best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and at his worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who never know victory or defeat. And I think that just really encapsulates kind of the value I really tried to kind of take with me. I really recommend everyone goes and reads it. I think it's incredibly kind of representative of kind of the values that I definitely try to live in my everyday life, of like aim for the things that you want to achieve, and like sometimes you will achieve them. More often than not, you'll be very surprised about how often you do achieve them because of the kind of motivations that you put behind it. But like, even if you don't, like, never ever leave yourself in a position of thinking, what if? A lot of people will sit and they'll watch and they will never even try to do the things that you want to do. And I can tell you, particularly on Sunday, there was not a lot of kind of cold and timid souls as such on that finish line, watching from the outside in. So yeah, I think it just encapsulates everything of go after things that you want to do. Like, don't look back when you're older and think, what if? Like, you can achieve the things that you want to achieve, and if not, like, at least you tried. And like, what's delayed is not denied, and you've got kind of a lot more time to try and achieve them as well. So you might as well go for it.
Mate, thank you for that. I completely agree. I look, it's the same thing. I think if I died tomorrow, you know, would I be happy with what I've tried to do so far? It's not so much what I've achieved, but what I've tried to do, you know. So thank you, mate. And look, hey, for those listening, appreciate you making it to the end as well. The quote I will put into the show notes. So if you wanted, I'll put a link to it as well, so you can read the full thing. But Ed, people are going to be interested in your story. People are going to want to follow you. So where am I sending them to find more out about you?
I will send you a link to my Just Giving page from last week to start with. It's got a kind of more detailed version of kind of a lot of the story behind my relationship with the Smith family, the Huntsman Trust, kind of a lot of the purpose behind why I decided to run 7 marathons in 7 days. Or yeah, pretty much on my Instagram, which I'm sure you'll tag Chester. Pretty much all I ever post is my attempted running achievements. So if anyone's interested in seeing if I do ever get into another one of the majors, they'll definitely hear about it there. I can assure you.
And follow this man on Strava. There you go, because he'll make you
well.
he'll make you want to get out there. But mate, hey. yeah, the last week's going to look amazing. Mate, I appreciate all the time that you spent with me today. It's been an honour chatting with you, and again, huge congratulations, and I'll speak to you offline very shortly about my plan.
Thank you very much.
Take it easy.
Cheers, boss.